Smith, the Director of Construction and Flight Test Facility at 542.
Todd Lindner, CEO, GM, Mojave Air and Spaceport.
Matt Nelson, Director of Operations, Mojave Air and Spaceport.
Joe Brennan, Kern County Supervisor, Philip Peters, District 1.
Josh Pierce, Director of Community Wellbeing from Venice Health.
Lydia Cheney, South Street Digital, and Greater Tehachapi Economic Development Council.
Alexia Sveda, Kern County lead on the Aerospace Cluster Initiative and also president of the Chamber of Commerce in California City.
Great, that's everybody. And let's go.
I forgot, I was waiting. This is Catherine Carr on District 9, Caltrans.
Let's go from left to right.
This is Blair Pruitt, Concentric Power, and Chair of the Industrial Automation Bachelor's Degree Program at Bakersfield College.
Hi, this is Kathy Hart. I'm with Antelope Valley College, filling an interim position for the next academic year.
We have John Spalding. John, are you on mute?
I am. I'm not. I don't think I am. I'm with the Kern County Building and Construction Trades Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Dave Domahoski.
And we got.
Oh, Aaron. Oh, is Aaron?
Hey, man. Aaron Falk with Kevin McCarthy.
And I don't know if Dave or Rachel introduced themselves.
Yeah, hi, this is Rachel Barker with the B3K advisory team.
I'm not sure who's next, Richard, but this is Jeremy Woods from the Cal State Bakersfield Entrepreneurship Program.
And are you calling from Indiana?
I am. I'm calling from my mom's guest room right now.
Okay, well, go Hoosiers.
I think you took the Eastern one.
Indeed, Hoosiers.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, I think that's everybody. Dave, did you introduce yourself, Domahoski?
No, Dave Domahoski with the Home Builders Association of Kern County.
Wonderful, and I think we had someone just, Christina Miller with Kern EDC. Thanks, Christina. She's here in case I mess things up, so, you know, I haven't met, luckily. Great, well, would love, thank you again, Mojave Air and Spaceport. We have board members here as well as a new CEO, a general manager. I had a great conversation with Todd, and have a lot of roots in Jacksonville, Florida, where you're from. So Todd, would love for you to give us an update. And
sure.
And should I click on
this?
Should I click on the slide?
Okay. Sent you. First of all, my name is Todd Lindner. I'm the new CEO and GM here in Mojave. Moved here from Jacksonville, Florida. It is really dry here. The big difference between Jacksonville and Mojave.
You're getting closer to the mic.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that, Mr. Deaver.
Bill Deaver. Here you go.
So, probably one of the biggest differences is that in Florida, whoever can get rid of the water wins. Here, whoever can hold on to the water wins. That's a huge difference, you know. But so this is I'm going to work from this aerial for a little bit. It's a very humbling experience to come here to Mojave, because one of the things that people don't realize is regardless of where you go in the world, when you say Mojave Air and Spaceport, you say Mojave. That just, people know what you're talking about. It's incredible. It's part of the fabric. Aerospace is part of the fabric of this community. Down at Plant 42, Cal City, Victor, everywhere. It's part of our culture and part of our fabric. I'm really proud of that, actually. So here in Mojave, we have a 3-runway system. Runway 1230, which is 12,500 feet in length. That's our primary runway. I'll tell you what, rotate that counterclockwise.
Oh, yeah. Counterclockwise. Oh, that's not in my wheelhouse. Does anyone know how to rotate it?
That's 4 times clockwise.
It's the box with the arrow on top on the right-hand side.
The box with the arrow?
Justin's coming to see.
Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do
This one
anything.
right here, Richard.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Jason and Justin are techies.
That way or 2 more times?
The demonstration of how easy
Is
it
that how
is if
you
you
want
know
it, or
what you're
do
doing.
you want it flipped again?
No, that's fine, that's good. Tell you what,
You can do 2 more
hand down a
times.
little bit, that's good. All right,
Oh,
there, perfect.
perfect.
Perfect,
I need
perfect,
this
perfect.
chair right here.
Our primary, you can't see this. Oh well. So runway 1230 is our primary runway, 12,500 feet in length. We come from an area where 12,500 feet in length is basically the second largest runway in the state of Florida. Here, it's just another runway. Everybody has long runways in California, especially this part of California. That is awesome, and because it really works to our advantage with the customers that we're working with. We're a launch site operator to accommodate horizontal launch operations. Now, I know most of the folks in this room probably are not like this, but as a society nationwide, when you think about space and space travel, the first thing that comes to your mind are these vertical launches that are going off like at Vandenberg or down at the Cape. Well, that's not what we do here. What we do is horizontal launch. In other words, the vehicle will take off just like an airplane, typically carrying another vehicle that will be released and climb into space. We saw it last week with the folks from Virgin Orbit. They conducted a launch operation. We're going to see it again this weekend, but it's going to go out to Mexico with Mr. Richard Branson on board. Spaceship 2, I think, or Unity, one of the two. I guess Spaceship 2 will be going into space with some other mission specialists. That's going to be very, very exciting. So the way we look at this is everything about from here around is just about all dedicated to the commercial space industry. From this point of the runway, or of the flight line, to about this region, it's flight test, corporate aviation, that type of tenant and client. And then on the very far west of our facility is an area that we have set aside and we developed to accommodate the general aviation community. Because at the end of the day, we are a public use general aviation airport. And so that is part of our requirements from the Federal Aviation Administration. We have to accommodate those operations by the general aviation community, whether it be corporate aviation or somebody just owns their own airplane and wants to fly and keep it here. And so we have very good facilities very good area and facilities to accommodate that. We're making some improvements. We're in the process right now of identifying some pavement needs down here, and we'll be completing some improvements that will address some pavement issues. In addition to that, we're also working to develop some additional hangars in this area for the general aviation community that I hope will help as we go forward. We're also working with Concentric Power on a couple different projects that are more or less off-site. We're also working to develop possibly some solar power in this area if we can get past the Federal Aviation's glint and glare studies, as well as the vertical limitations as it relates to airspace. Going forward in the future, this year we pumped a little over 1.2 million gallons of fuel. For Mojave, that's really good. A significant amount of that was with the folks that are operating the F-18s out of Lemoore and China Lake. We do get a little service from the folks over at Edwards. But other than that, that's probably pretty much our government fuel that we sell, our government fuel contracts. And then we also pump a lot of fuel, jet fuel, for a lot of the flight test operators out here, as well as, not to mention, Straddle Launch and Virgin Orbit. Whenever they operate, they use a lot of fuel as well. The area up at the top here, let me see that barely. This area up here, and you would need to pan down a little bit, but is pretty much attributed or set aside to be used for doing rocket motor testing. One of the things that is nationally speaking, there's not too many places in the United States that you can go test a rocket motor. But most places you go to ask to test a rocket motor, the people look at you kind of stupid probably. But here and other places within this region, we're fortunate in that we have the capability to accommodate rocket motor testing. So we do a lot of that here on site. A lot of it is conducted by the rocket motor developers and vehicle developers. A lot of what they do is done, under the code of silence for obvious reasons. And the only thing typically we know is we know the time they're going to do the test, we know the amount and types of propellants they're going to be working with, and that's about it. Because, again, a lot of times these are folks that are doing stuff for the government, and it's classified programs, and we can't tell the people what they're talking about. One area that we have recognized, and I've talked about Alexia about this and others, is the fact that in Mojave, one of the issues is we need additional housing. Housing is an issue, and we agree. At the same time, we have to plan and develop in a very strategic manner, because population density is not the aerospace community's friend. Anytime you're dealing with population density, you've got issues that you have to overcome. So we're more than glad and happy to be working with the community on that to address that challenge. And we're very glad and very happy to be part of that strategy as we move forward. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions y'all might have. I don't think I have anything else I can really share with you right now.
Todd, I saw the story about is it the X-1B supersonic?
Yes, sir.
It kind of looks like the Concorde. What is the background with
that? Okay, so there is a company, and this is all public now. As you all might have heard a few weeks ago, United Airlines purchased a number of supersonic jets from a company called Boom. And so Boom, who is currently located in Denver, Colorado, they have scheduled to do their flight test program with us. That will start probably sometime in early 2022 and go for a year. It's my understanding that United wants delivery of those aircraft, start taking delivery sometime in the spring of 2025. Some of y'all might know better than me on that, but that's what I've been told. So they're going to, that's a really accelerated program, and Dr. Dave, you might be able to talk more to that, but in my experience, it takes years and years and years to go through airworthiness with FAA and to achieve that development of a vehicle that can be used for commercial transport. So very exciting, and I'm sure the folks at United are very excited as well, and thinking this is going to go a lot faster maybe than other programs have gone before that. But yeah, Boom is on site. They have a agreement with one of our tenants, and they're working through them. Yes, sir.
I was hoping I'd maybe hear the question, why Mojave?
No, I don't think the question is why Mojave. The question is why not Mojave.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because when it comes to Mojave in particular, like we talked about before, the bad thing is yes, we don't have a lot of housing, but at the same time, a good thing is the fact we don't have the population density that most areas have to deal with. That and you take that and couple it with our ability to obtain or secure the needed utilities to accommodate a lot of these test operations. Those things in particular, that just adds up to Mojave.
But you're also in the supersonic corridor, correct?
Yes, sir. So we have a supersonic corridor that runs overhead. However, what we got to keep in mind with the supersonic corridor is that for our people operating from here, that we still have to gain permission, if you will, from the folks at Everett to use the supersonic corridor. But I will tell you, yesterday I was in Carl's hardware store and we heard a sonic boom. It kind of made you feel good, And what I really, really like about this community in particular, and I'm not talking about the community on the aerospace board, I'm talking about the surrounding community. Everybody is very, very supportive of the aerospace industry, and that is huge, because there's not too many places in the United States that you can go today and talk about sonic booms, and people are going to say, yeah, Most people cringe. So we're very fortunate. Yes, sir.
So if I may add on that,
There's a phenomenal partnership between the government and Mojave Air and Spaceport, not so much in writing or etched in stone, but in mission execution. And it comes down to why why is the guy from a plant in Palmdale up here for Kern? And that's that, I'm sorry, I don't see, as they said in an old movie about Louisiana, I don't see the parish line very clearly. It is an aerospace valley, right?
Yes.
It's an enterprise.
Right.
If I take a civilian test program and bring it to Edwards or Plant 42, the pin rate, what we charge the customer, is considerably higher than DoD. And unless it's a national need program, the priority is somewhere below the
Right.
alphabet
Yes.
and a couple
Yes.
of numbers. And so any military program comes in, bumps it. Well, these people need to produce under free enterprise, what make the country great, not the military, free enterprise. They need to be able to come somewhere where they can empower that RDT&E and execute. And this is like the perfect partner for that. At Plant 42, every time I bring a test program in, I have to ask, what does that do to Northrop, Lockheed, and Boeing?
Right.
And if it impacts any of them, my answer to the program is no. But you have the space, the airspace, the capability, the people to bring it here and execute tests. That's good for the whole country.
And that's a very good point. Our ability to make decisions here is very efficient. Matter of fact, had a conversation with my staff just a couple days ago regarding this very issue. You know, one of the reasons why people come here is because of our ability to provide access and permission to do things that in other places within the United States, it would take months and months and months and the bureaucracy. So, you know, when someone comes here and they tell me what they're doing, they provide me a summary of their program, you know, other than myself, I go to the chairman of our board, and that's the two decisions that are made, and we move forward. And we're very fortunate in that, definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point. Anything else?
Always say with the right amount of government.
How
Not
about,
too
I know,
much, but enough.
Florida, we talk about Florida, how we hear how much the state capital, delegations, the governors there, they all in, this, both public and private sector. How do we get, in terms of the appreciation, at least in my opinion, from Sacramento and folks up there, there?
So here's the deal. California annually has either the largest or the number one air transportation system in the United States, or the second largest, depending on where they fall with. That's usually a battle between Alaska, Texas, and California. Those three. One of those three is always number one. And the other two fall somewhere slightly below it. With that large air transportation system, my question is why would the state not invest more in the air transportation system in California, number one? Number two, in Florida, as it relates to commercial space, from a state Department of Transportation perspective, space is considered a mode of transportation. So space infrastructure projects are funded by the state. You have to have a launch operator's license. Like in Florida, there are 3 launch site operators, the Cape, Titusville, and Cecil, Jacksonville. Those 3 places compete for that infrastructure money that's been set aside to fund the commercial space program. That's what California needs to do, I would recommend. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I may build upon another unique asset we have here too at the Mojave Air and Spaceport is that the control tower is actually run and operated by the airport, which is really unusual. Most towers are actually federal employees, so we have the unique opportunity to really treat our tenants as a customer service focused type enterprise. So if we need high-speed entrances or R&D above 200 knots, we can certainly accommodate that. So that's one thing we can do is usually, again, at another airport, once an airplane leaves the ground, it's now in charge of the tower, which are feds. In this case, we essentially are able to control and cater to the customer, the tenants, for the R&D component, all the way up to controlling them through the airspaces. So it works really, really well. It's a unique opportunity.
Yes, sir.
So if I could pull on your thread with housing for a minute.
Yes, sir.
So this is where an organization like this, and one of the reasons I come up here, really can potentially help. And Alexia and I have had this discussion more than 1,000 times. It is really hard for any of us in the Aerospace Valley to hire an engineer out of the South Bay. Right? It's hard to get the talent up here. But if we can grow the talent from within, utilizing local capabilities, Cal State, Bakersfield, engineering programs from Long Beach exported to Antelope Valley College, etc., we maybe can keep them. So feedback I get from all my mission partners and my people and Edwards boils down to that they won't stay here if they can't find a house. And we have people that literally cannot find a reasonably priced domicile in a safe neighborhood so that they can come to work. Nobody in this region is turning dirt for houses. But getting these things past the concept phase, what I was told recently by a major developer is if we could get one to break through and show fiscal viability, the others would fall into place very quickly.
Yep.
But to get to that point, we need some people to help push our local politicals from the city level on up through the state. Just say, guys, can we get permits a little easier? Can we cut some restrictions on engineering and environment? Can we make creative access to power? It seems we have this litany of reasons why I cannot make you a house versus turning that into a business concept and saying, look at how many benefits I will get by building you a house.
Yeah, this is how I can build a house, right.
Right.
I agree. You know, one of the things that we struggle with on that, and I've shared this with the board and I've spoke about this, I talked about this with Alexia, is the fact that being an airport that has received funds from the Federal Aviation Administration, they make it very clear in their grant assurances that we cannot have permanent housing on site. We can have short-term hotel, that type of thing, but you can't have permanent housing. And so something, again, the topic I've been talking to my staff about is the possibility of requesting a waiver from the feds that would allow us to develop a certain level of permanent housing on site that would help support what you were just saying, that might work to encourage a developer to build some decent homes in a decent area at a reasonable price. That, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's definitely an issue. At the same time, I say that and I recognize that, I see it here, but 16 weeks ago, when I made the decision to come here, hell, it had nothing to do with housing. I mean, that was just, we're going, that's it, we'll figure it out. And I think one thing that will help attract people here is we need to better market the area. And what I mean by that is, one thing I didn't know, this had no bearing on my decision, but one thing I found is I've been here, I am literally, no joke, this is not exaggerating, I am 2 hours away from everything or anything. I can go to the beach, I can go to the mountains and ski, I can go bird hunting, I can go fly fishing. I can do anything I want to do. I can get in the Jeep and go out in the desert. Anything, and I swear it's within, no kidding, 2 hours, if not less. I go to Paso Robles and drink wine. Well, what can I not do? I can go to Palm Springs in about a little over 2 hours. But it's incredible, and I think that is something that needs to be brought out. Whenever something else, I never realized how close Bakersfield was to Mojave. I'm a big Bakersfield fan, never knowing that it was this close. So when I flew out here and I interviewed, and my wife came with me, I said, you know, I may not get this job, so we're going to Bakersfield because I want to see Bakersfield. We may never be here again. And I mean, that's awesome, but I never knew that. I think it's things like that that need to be brought out, you know, somehow in a marketing video.
I want to add
Here's our copy.
an interesting number.
Thank you.
We estimate, and the number's probably grown a little bit, 2,000 employees on the airport, if you take into consideration our staff and all of our tenants. We estimate that 95% of them don't live in the community. They live in outside communities. To me, that makes a huge statement to developers. I've talked to many of the engineers and young guys that are down in the general aviation area and through the town. Where do you live? And you'll hear Santa Clarita, Palmdale, Lancaster, Tehachapi. Well, why not here? And their answer is where? They're spot on. I'm a native here, so I'm very familiar with the problem.
Well, and we always talk about jobs, housing, balance, and you want 1-to-1. So you have how many jobs? 3,000 jobs on the at the spaceport?
About 2, I think.
And then how many home? If you do the home count, you can have
Oh, thank you.
And Todd made a great point. When we come up to Mojave in Bakersfield, half the people say, "Oh, is that 2 hours away?" I mean, I made it under 1 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the challenge. So we always talk about drive time in our market. If you mention miles, I mean, when I'm in LA, people think Bakersfield's 5 hours away. Why? Because 100 miles means 5 hours because you're driving 20 miles an hour if you're in LA.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, that's a great point you make. And then my thing too is when they say Mojave Air and Spaceport, I like them to say Kern County, but they always say north of LA. It's like how do we get Kern County should get that credit, not LA County.
That's a good point. Yes.
Richard, this is Bill Deaver. I'd like to say something about this. The problem with getting houses built in Mojave has nothing to do with the county. The county is very good. We work very closely with Laurel Iovia, planning director who lives 15 miles south of Rosemead. The problem is with the developers. And the developers claim they can't build a house in Mojave and sell it for what they could pay cost to do, which I think is like somebody else said a few minutes ago, if we build it, they will come. And that's the big problem. The county is supporting, and we just need to get these developers off their rear ends and come up here. This is a great opportunity for people. And I agree, we don't want to get too many people up there. But I've lived in a few places where I had to commute, and that is just wasted time. You're just wasting your time when you do that. So we're willing to welcome people in here. We've had several opportunities over the years, and every time we get ready to get some houses built, like the last time, 2007, something happens and the market drops out, and then we're screwed again. So I helped Todd get a house in Tehachapi because I know there's no housing in the market. I was going to sell my house recently, but then I got to figure where am I going to live? It's a really bad problem.
Richard, this is Kathy Hart, and just wanted to say welcome to Todd. I haven't had a chance to meet you. When you were talking about the role of the state and how the state should be supportive of commercial space, it harkens back to my days in the mid-2000s serving with the California Space Authority, which is now a defunct organization. But, I always think there's a hope and a possibility that we could eventually get another similar organization launched in the state that would draw partners not just from our local region, but from all over the state, to be able to move the needle and promote commercial space in California. Once again, it was a difficult effort, a difficult work then at that time, even to get our own legislators in California on board and understanding the value and the role of commercial space. But if we could ever get some political appetite for helping to fund an organization like that, that would be awesome to see again.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I really appreciate that. Quick question for you. The reason that the California Space Agency went defunct, more or less, is it because at the time the commercial space industry was not as mature as it is now, and the legislators didn't recognize the value?
Well, I think really the reason the organization went under was really lack of funding. There was some state support for the organization, and we had gone out on a limb actually were the recipient of a very large Department of Labor grant and did a lot of work, actually built a directory of subprime contractors across the state that we thought would be very useful to our larger companies to know that they could actually do business in California and keep the business local. So it was really a funding issue, I believe, not really lack of political support in terms of supporting commercial space, although it was a difficult thing for many legislators to understand the role of commercial space, especially like in agricultural districts and such. We used to have talking papers for those representatives to show them how they can't farm without satellites. And where do you think satellites originate? It's
Right.
the commercial space industry. So, I thought we did good work at the time. I was sad to see it go away, but I think there could be an opportunity to start something like that again. And some of the brain trust is still around in the state to do that.
Thank you for those comments. I really agree with you in the fact that now is the time is right to establish something like that. If we look back 20 years ago, originally in Florida, it was the Florida Space Agency, and they were disorganized and put away in 2001 or 2002. And I think primarily because the legislators did not see the advantages of commercial space and economic development, direct economic impacts that would occur as a result of commercial space. About 5 years after that, they reorganized as Space Florida, and Space Florida has, grown leaps and bounds over the last 20 years. So that's I say that because I think there's still hope, and it's still something that could be taken up with the state.
This is Bill Deaver again. I worked for 2 congressmen, ran a congressman's office in Washington, worked in the administrations of 2 real presidents, Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. And as I reminded our airport district board here several months ago, somebody on the board say, well, why isn't Sacramento doing something? And I told them, look, Sacramento doesn't do it unless, as Kathy said, we go up there. We've got to just sit on their doorstep and let them know and provide the facts like she did. I remember those days. So we've got to get off our butts and get up to Sacramento and Washington and any place else, or they're not going to do it, because those guys and ladies and guys are very busy, and it's the old thing about the squeaky wheel.
Yes, sir.
This time it's a squeaky aileron.
That's right.
Hey, Todd.
Yes, sir.
Todd, this is Blair Pruitt.
Hey, Blair.
Centric Power. Take the opportunity to officially welcome you to Kern County, and thank you for the opportunity to at least introduce you to some sustainable energy sources that Concentric Power has. But I'd like to also recognize that there's a lot of people, in fact, this whole forum is about what Bill was just talking about. We've got to do this ourselves. And when you're looking at what we have done so far, and we have a really good head of steam at Bakersfield College with their bachelor's in engineering and industrial automation, and what Cal State Bakersfield is doing, and what Rachel Barker at B3K is identifying technology transfer and workforce development to support the aerospace industry in Mojave and the growing industries in distribution and ag and oil here in Kern County. We have to grow our own, and we've got a pretty good head of steam headed in that direction here locally. So everybody who's involved here today and outside in recognizing these areas needs a commendation. So, and I also appreciate you, Todd, recognizing the secret of Kern County, because I can be in the Dodger Stadium in an hour and 45 minutes, and that makes me pretty damn happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking about that, several years ago, somebody was complaining about living in the middle of nowhere. They were talking to some woman who just moved to Mojave with her husband, who was an engineer, and she says, we live in the middle of everywhere.
That's right.
It's true.
That's right.
Very, very true.
Bill and Blair, and Todd, it's Jeremy Woods. Just a quick to like build off of both of those things and to build off what Todd was saying before. I think Alexia, who's there in person, can speak to this even more. But there's a lot of really cool things to do right there in East Kern County in the desert that you can't do as easily in LA or in even in Bakersfield or in San Francisco or Las Vegas. We're trying to start organizing some weekend and leisure activities later this summer and this fall, stargazing and camping out at Red Rocks and some other sort of nature-oriented activities that just add to the fact that you are also within 2 hours range of everything. So I think it's an awesome place for people to live. Definitely. And I just second on the technology side, Blair, I think we have tremendous opportunities for tech transfer going forward.
Oh, right.
One last comment. We already have stargazing in Red Rock Canyon, and the guy who's doing it is Ted Heiskinson, who's the president of our Chamber of Commerce. He also instructs in astronomy at the college up in Ridgecrest.
Yeah, we were trying to coordinate with him, Bill, to promote his next event a little bit more with all the various personnel at China Lake and Edwards.
Good, great.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. You had a question.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was just going to point out something and then ask about something. So one, Megan can attest to this, water is going to be a big challenge for a lot of development. And that is something the county is trying to mitigate actively. The state, whether or not that becomes an integral part of it, is still up in the air, because DWR and the State Water Project are always going to be, because of SGMA regulations, are still going to be major players. But something out in Ridgecrest that we're having to, in District 1, deal with major is water infrastructure, because having to go through these drought seasons in the frequency that we are is not boding well for kind of the outlook as far as development. And so that is going to have to be, as far as with housing, those tie very in well together. And as far as business, economic development, same thing. So keep that in mind. But I also want to ask about, as far as recruitment and opportunities, as far as keeping people in the area, as someone who experienced it, you're transitioning out military. And how successful are you with that, and where do you see any need for improvement? Because I know with China Lake and with Edwards, I know quite a few members who transitioning out have the skills necessary for licensing. Maybe you can highlight that. I'm not sure where you guys are.
No, right, exactly. And I will tell you this: the military folks come to us. We don't. They just naturally come to us. I mean, we don't do anything actively to try to attract the military people. Right. You probably have the same situation at your place.
We do, but you touch on a good point, and that's that we do lose a high percentage of military retirees.
Okay.
SDMAC, the San Diego Military Advisory Council, which is a very powerful group in the region, invariably chaired by a retired 4-star admiral. So I'm the speed dial for the Pacific Fleet Commander, very well connected. They commissioned a study at their expense as to what California would get out of not taxing military retirement. And they found that the state of California would make tens of millions of dollars more in protracted revenue by not taxing retirement.
Agreed.
And the reality is, I'm a retired military colonel, and now I serve in the Guard, but I willfully take a 10% reduction in retirement by retaining California as a resident.
Right.
And that's real money.
Yes.
That somebody does not hand me every year.
Right.
So we do lose an inordinately high percentage of military retirees, and if you want to look where they're going, look directly at the state tax laws. Many states don't tax military retirement at all. Many have a favorable status if you're out of state. Things could be done, and the reality is California would make money doing that. But if we're going to get things like that through Sacramento and things like housing and other things out there, we have got to learn how to collectively speak better with one voice. I go up separately from you, you go up separately from General Hiker,
Right.
goes up separately than the captain up at China Lake. But if we speak together between China Lake, you, Edwards, and Plant 42, that's almost 40,000 aerospace employees. And we have not yet talked about all the feeder industries, all the subcontracts,
Yeah, all the indirect.
fuel suppliers, power providers, whatever else is out there. We need to make clear to Sacramento when we walk in there that we're talking about 10% of the population of the region is a direct aerospace employee.
Right.
That number they'll listen to. So people like you and I got to get joined better at the hip.
Right, that's true. That's a great point. Definitely. I agree. Anything else? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I had a slide that I was going to show in my PowerPoint. It was, but I left it out. It's a number of regulations, state level regulations, and our California has 390,000. So how does that compare to the states next? Next to us? Let's see, 64,000 for Nevada, 64,000 for Arizona, 62,000 for Idaho. So that's just state level regulations. So a factor of 6. So I guess we've got to, where do we start? Look at the legislation. Cal Chamber and others weigh in, and they have job killer bills. And the job killer bills are the list is much longer than the job creator bills. So that's the other thing is, you would think that's apolitical to create jobs, good paying jobs. But maybe I'm just naive. So. Great, well thanks Todd. And so I have a PowerPoint, hopefully we'll, and is Rhonda here with the AV Edge? Okay, so usually we take turns, but I will get started. So hopefully, let's see, this will work. Okay, there we go. Everybody can see that. And
Richard, is it possible that you click share screen as well? Like, yeah, I know that you're projecting it in the room there, but we can't actually.
Okay, well that probably would help, right? So I will do
a little bit.
Share screen. Here we go. And last time I presented, I was like 15 minutes into it, and somebody goes, "We can't see your PowerPoint." I'm like, well, okay, it's only been 15 minutes. Okay, so how about?
Much better, thanks.
There you go. Hopefully this works.
That's awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have my PowerPoint as a crutch, but I wanted to go through kind of state of the economy at a more macro level. It's hard to believe we haven't met in person since March of 2020, and we were in Mojave. That was the last in-person East Kern Economic Alliance meeting. So it's great to see everybody here and eat the food at the Voyager. So going through, I really like, as Todd mentioned, some of these facts many of our residents aren't aware of. We put together basically a top 10 list. Our economic vitality. We are the third most diverse economy in the country. And a lot of that's because of East Kern. When you're West Kern, you talk about oil and ag and obviously logistics and the healthcare, but it's like because of what's happening here. And you can see, look at our portfolio. Most of these are East Kern. So the nation's largest wind, solar, then you have the Eland, which is 8 Minute Energy, has their, I think, 300 to 400 megawatt battery energy storage. Rio Tinto, largest borax mine, and 50 of the world's first came out of China Lake. Glow stick, airbags, and we have that music festival. Speaking of glow sticks, we have that lightning in a bottle coming back. But probably Justin would be the only one. Justin and maybe Joe. But you can see some of the things that we promote. Edwards, we have the world's largest ice cream facility in Bakersfield. And then COSO, geothermal. I mean, we have a gold mine down the road, right? Golden Queen, about 250. There's only 2 precious mines in the state that are operating. And one of them is about, 10 miles from here. And distribution centers, over 50 distribution. Remember that actually Shafter in our county is the population center of the state. The equal number of people are north of that point and south. And to Todd's point, we're 4 hours basically from 90% of the state's population. So I think this would be, I always say this is something a state would like to have, and this is Kern County. So how do we get, again, when I came here in 06, I was doing a little digging. I said, wow, Kern County, actually from 01 to 14, we were the fastest growing economy in the country, out of the top 200 metros. And someone said, how do you know that? I said, well, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. So as we dig, as we keep telling the story, I think it's really important. And this is real news. This is not fake news. These are real facts that we use. So, one thing going into COVID, interestingly enough, we're rated one of the most resilient economies in the country. So think about our diversity of industries. 2/3 of those are essential. We were number one in the country, next to Fayetteville, North Carolina, which I grew up next to. Does anyone know what's in Fayetteville? At military? Speaking of booms, Fort Bragg. So that's number 2. But Kern County was ranked one of the most resilient economies. There's a website called tracktherecovery.org. Free, go into it. There's no paywall. You can see since January of last year, we're actually, for high to mid-wage employment, we're at number 2 in the country for growth. And I'm sure a lot of those are in East Kern. In fact, East Kern's unemployment level is a couple points below the county average, which is about 10%. So now the low wage numbers are not on here. It's probably about 25% decline, hospitality, retail, but that's better than the U.S. average. So this is a great website. You can tracktherecovery.org. You can look at how Kern County, everything is Kern County. Bakersfield MSA is Kern County. And then we looked at, I actually put this as, because I'm going to talk somewhat about energy today. Our spending is about 6%. And actually lags a little bit, the U.S. average. And the transportation, there was discussion about people coming out of their homes, and we actually are almost pretty much back to where we were pre-COVID. These numbers are a little dated, but I was looking at I'll talk about oil imports. The amount of oil used in California is 97% of what was before COVID. So we're basically back up. And because of those essential jobs, a lot of people in Kern County were on the road. So the great thing with telling the story and more information, especially on LinkedIn, is that we know that the average attention span is 8 seconds. Right? What did I just say?
Huh?
Oh. So one of the things we did, and I'd love to do this for aerospace, we've talked about it, but these fact sheets, I post them on LinkedIn, and I get 3,000 to 4,000 views. And a lot of those are from Sacramento. And we're getting a lot of, and this is, again, real data, but look, you can see we are the energy capital of California, if not the country. And somebody said, well, we have an oil and gas one, which I'll show you here. No, I'll go through that later. We have an oil and gas one specific. We have an ag one, but we put both in energy up and compare, not comparing in terms of jobs, but just capital investment, in terms of how these industries are important to us. And you can see wind capital of the world, actually, 50%, more than 50% of the state's renewable energy comes from Kern County. And then as well as you can see in terms of the impact of especially the oil industry. And 8 out of top 10 taxpayers in the county are energy companies. So one of the things, this has not gone live, but somebody said, telling the story. Does anybody know what percentage of our oil that we import today? California, it says it up there, but before you see that, I walk around Kern County and people tell me, oh, about 5%. It's 70%. So remember, California is an energy island. The only way you're going to get oil, petroleum in this 600 million plus barrels that are required are from, there's no pipeline, right? You're not like natural gas where it's piped from Texas or from Colorado. So it's either local or it's from abroad. And so what we really wanted to do was just put the data out there and say, okay, well, where are we importing oil from? Okay, these are the countries: Ecuador, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Colombia. And what are their environmental records like? As you can see upper left. How do they rate environmental? Well, probably not very good. How about health? How about human rights? Yeah, look at Saudi Arabia. It's like 7. So U.S. Much higher. And then what is the impact of, frankly, taking halfway around the world? The oil's coming from halfway around the world. Many people aren't aware one of the largest polluters in the LA basin are from these tankers. Because I saw a recent report put out, I think by this Center for Biological Diversity, and they were talking about local production, and they were saying in terms of what pollution the local production created. But interestingly enough, they didn't take into account, okay, well, what is the pollution created locally? But you need to also, you talk about imports, what does that create? But they didn't put that in their report. So it's really not apples to apples. And so I hate when the whole story's not out there. So we're putting this out, should be ready by the end of the week. Again, I'd love to do I'd love to do one on aerospace. Because how do you tell the elevator speech, right? I mean, you're in an elevator, how do you talk about what we're hearing today? So our energy summit is, we're meeting in person on November 10th. And again, we talk about energy, right? All kinds of energy. And we will be, luckily have 300 to 400 of our closest friends at the Marriott in Bakersfield. And so we're very excited about having events in person again. So let me know if you need more information. One of our partnerships with JP Lake at Secor was called KITE. We know that 90% of net new jobs created in any local economy are for companies less than a year old. So think about it. I was in Seattle, and Boeing, whenever Boeing had layoffs the next year, you'd have startup activity would triple because people wanted to stay. They started, the necessity is the mother of invention. And so we were number 5 in the country for startup activities, but according to Kauffman Foundation, our startups do not last as long as most places. So it's great, you're starting companies, but they're dying at a much quicker rate, and they don't pay as well. So we were going around the county. Actually, before COVID, our next meeting was going to be in Ridgecrest. And what we want to do is tell the story of what funding is local, what spaces, right? We have Justin's going to talk about Kernville Coworks, one of the first co-work facilities in the county. Talent, I mean, that's nationwide, right? Talent. How do we identify talent? I'll talk about some of the things our foundation is doing, and mentoring. We have if you go to, it's called Startup Space, go on gokite.org, and it's an actual, basically a resource compass, and you can find out about as an entrepreneur, because this effort's only as good as the entrepreneurs. I'm an NGO, we got educators, but if we don't have the entrepreneurs at the table, then it's not going to be successful. So we incorporated a Startup Space platform, an online incubator they call it, a virtual sandbox. I know, again, Justin knows all these words. And he taught me one, but you have to tell me one about, was it bike shedding?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is bike shedding? Does anyone know what bike shedding is?
If you've got a board of directors and they have 2 items on the agenda, you've got $1 million for a brand new jet and $1,000 for a bike shed. They're going to spend more time talking about bike shed because everybody can wrap their heads around that. So when we spend a lot of time on trivial things, it's called bike shedding.
So what?
Also known as a law of triviality.
Yeah, okay.
The most trivial item on the agenda is what you're going to spend the most time on.
Like sign ordinances. There's a lot of talk about sign ordinances. So anyway, Justin called me after a meeting at KITE. He goes, "We're too much bike shedding." I'm like, "What? Is that a compliment?" So anyway, gokite.org is a free resource. We're going to go around the county. We can't wait to come out to Mojave and the rest of East Kern and identify entrepreneurs throughout the county. So our foundation, we're KDC, but I'm also the executive director of our foundation. Foundation's the C3, and so good news there. Last year we won an International EDC Award for our symposium, If you don't know what that was our third year. We were at the fairgrounds, and I know Tehachapi and others, Mojave, we had Ridgecrest folks from Ridgecrest students come, folks set up table, and we had 3,000 students, all ages, third grade on, learning about, we're number 4 in the country for STEM jobs. Kern County, Bakersfield, according to Brookings Institution, but 10% of our high-level STEM jobs are unfilled. So that's called underemployment. A lot of places have overemployment, or a lot of places have underemployment. We have overemployment. So what is underemployment? You have a PhD and you're working at Starbucks, but 50 people are competing for the job that you want, be it in biotech or software. Well, we have the opposite, which I think is an opportunity, where, by the way, pharmacists make more here in the than in our metro area than any place in the country. Engineers make more here, 106,000. But we don't have the job. We have the jobs, but we don't have the applicants, right? You want like 10-to-1 ratio. We have maybe 3-to-1. And we want people to, like Todd, do a little like Todd. He hears Mojave. He really is like, I know that name well, and the cachet. And then, as you look at the opportunities, as we say, innovation rising is our theme for East Kern Economic Alliance. So our symposium will be taking place April 22nd next year. We actually plan to have it, though, instead of the fairgrounds. I'm not sure about having 3,000 to 4,000 people in a hangar. We're going to have it. If you haven't been there, it's the CTech Center in Bakersfield, $90 million facility. They have 40 voc ed programs, from welding to robotics, aerospace. That's the place where the rubber meets the road. And some of these kids are going to go on to get 2 or 4 year degrees. Others aren't. And so we want to make sure that they know what the opportunities. They have a logistics center there. They actually have kids driving forklifts. Not sure the legal and indemnification things there, but it's great. It's a great facility. So we're going to showcase that. The other thing, during COVID, our foundation was built on symposium and mentoring. Well, you can't really have a symposium, especially a year ago. And so I'm a big proponent of internships. I've had internships. I was supposed to be a stockbroker, and I tried working in New York a few summers, and that 2-hour commute was not for me. But I ended up working on Wall Street and getting an internship afterwards, getting a full-time job in a research capacity with that same firm. And so what we're going to do is county-wide, across industry sectors. We have great I'm not a graphic designer. I would have had a bullet point. We have local. We use Kern County graphic design people. You can see our market overview. Also local. I won an international award there. So step 1 was to promote why are internships important. I mean, it can't just be anecdotal. So we're showing, this just went out last week, why employers benefit as well as interns. Think about it, like the average time that someone has it has to be paid, and I don't think the IRS allows unpaid anymore. But paid internships create, you can see on the right column, in terms of the pay versus unpaid, or a student that did not have internships. And in fact, an unpaid internship is equivalent to no internship at all. So we're promoting that. We've actually already have 2, Chevron and PG&E have already stepped up to plate and our seed capital. But what we're doing, how do we create how do we promote internship opportunities? Like, we can't just say go to Indeed. So we're incorporating a web portal where the employers go in and basically register and list their opportunities, and the students are matched with the employer. So we're meeting with the community colleges. We want to meet with obviously Saracosa as well as West Kern, and it's only as good, like Kite. It's only as good as entrepreneurs at the table. This is only as good as the employers that are going to hire. And we're going to find matching. We found sources for matching. The employer will have skin in the game, but also we are working with the Workforce Investment Board and private sector to provide a stipend, and then the employer can match that. So we're really excited about that. This will not really, summer of next year was when the interns will take place, but we getting ahead of the game, and so more to come on that. And we'd love all the employers here to sign up because I think it's just, we want our talent to stay here. Well, they intern at your company. The odds of them being employed full-time are much greater than if they had no connection to the company. And again, our market overview, so it's KERNEDC.com, so let me know if you need hard copies, and that's my report. So if there are any questions, comments.
Since we get some foot traffic that stops by the airport, can we get some of those collaterals?
Yes, the hard copies, I will send you. We'll send you like 10 or 15. Okay,
Great.
perfect. So I think as we cycle through, if you don't mind coming up, this is the hot seat. So as we'll have, I think we have next, Kelly Bearden, are you, I know you're in, I think Bishop. Are you on the line? So I think Kelly was, actually Kern County was first. I don't know, is Teresa anyone representing Kern County? Okay. Let's see, what did do I unshare because I don't see myself? Someone did that on purpose. Let's see. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, you're not sharing right now.
I'm not. Do I go to desktop or? Oh, I'm not? Okay. I wonder where. I don't see it, right? Did I cover the, this is, well, whoever's next, is anyone a techie person that's going to come up? Oh, so you're saying I'm not sharing?
Correct. What are you trying to do?
Who wants to see
So
this?
they can see us?
So his
Oh.
camera's here in the room. Instead of in
Well, you can
outer
talk.
I
space.
can't see from that angle. Oh yeah, you're sharing your video.
How do we get the camera to, oh, there we go. Is that it?
Yeah, so, oh, yeah, camera's not. Your camera just stopped.
Oh, great. The camera just stopped.
I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Okay, well, the camera,
well, I don't want to.
everybody can hear.
No,
right?
it's yellow for some
Okay.
reason.
Our camera just, okay, so if you can come up to near the phone, I think we have District 1. Thanks, Todd. Joe Brennan, yeah, District 1, Joe Brennan, so everybody can, they can't see you, but
They don't need to see
I have a
it's
face
okay.
for radio, so.
Just imagine a short bald guy. It's okay.
Okay.
So a couple things for District 1, Kern County overall. I don't think anybody here today from Supervisor Scrivener's office, but just a couple of things. So budget is one of the bigger things coming up. The supervisors this last meeting, last week, did approve a preliminary budget. So that's something that just is a basic cover for it. And then they'll get more detail oriented and go through this with the CAO, our CAO Ryan Alsop, for that, and that'll be due, I believe, in August. Outside of that, Kern County Fire Chief David Witt retires this month, so we will have a new fire chief. I believe his name.
Duncan.
Yes,
Aaron Duncan.
That is correct. So he's had 20 years with the Kern County Fire Department. He's a bit younger, so he comes in with a fresh new set of eyes as far as where things can go. That's kind of like one of the newer things going on. One of the things for District 1 that we're really dealing with is, as I talked about earlier, is water out in East Kern with Ridgecrest. So that's something that's always on the forefront for us, continuously trying to see if we can work with China Lake and the community of Ridgecrest, working with our partners in the City Council. Out in Ridgecrest are doing a wonderful job. We have constant communication with Mayor Bruin and various other council members. Life work went this year. Our sheriff's department was able to confiscate a lot of illegal fireworks this year, which obviously went up. Subsequently, we just had a recent major illegal drug bust, marijuana bust out in Kern. So coming from reports from those in the area. So these are all things that the community is very good at giving us feedback, and we want to continue that. And that's what we really benefit from at the county is feedback from constituents. So those are a couple of things that we're dealing with. The budget, as I said, will be in August. The other thing we're keeping an eye on, redistricting. So that's going to be something to watch towards the end of the year. But there's public input for that. That's going to involve everything from your school districts, city councils. Everything is going to be looking at redistricting this year. So just be aware of that. Does anybody have any questions for me as far as anything specifically?
How does the redistricting process, I know there was a couple of years ago, but how does it work moving forward? The same process, or who decides what?
This is going to be different.
Right.
Only because the Census Bureau is going to be very delayed. We typically would have had the information already.
Okay.
They would have had to come up with a strategy and plan, but they're essentially, by the time it gets to the Board of Supervisors, for them to make a decision on the map for the district, it's going to be roughly within a month. And they're going to have to do a quick turnaround, which they're going to hire consultants to do that. The understanding that I have is they're going to have somebody who specializes in that to do that. It'll be a third-party outside group. There's going to be input from the public, so there may potentially be. The last time we did this, we had lawsuits.
Is that MalDef? Or?
That's There's typically that comes along with it. But if you use somebody like a demographer, you can try to avoid that. So that's a potential outside source. So having a good nonpartisan group to do that is probably the best foreseeable plan. So but it's something that's going to impact services. It's going to impact how we operate. It's going to impact budgets going forward after this year. So that's why it's important that everyone keep an eye on that. We want to make sure that everyone keeps an eye on that, so that way we're being transparent about it. But anything else?
No, that's
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Well, next we have Tehachapi. I know that Greg mentioned Greg and Susan and Corey, but we have two reps from Tehachapi.
Yeah, come on up, Josh. Josh is new. I'd like to introduce everybody to Josh Pierce with Adventist Health Tehachapi Valley, and he's dual integration for Bakersfield area as well. So I'll let you speak on your own there about what you do.
So I'm the Director of Community Integration and Wellbeing, focusing on everything we can do to evaluate the economic status of people, because people who have better economic status eat better, they live longer. It's kind of with that whole healthy living. I oversee Tehachapi, which has a service area all the way from basically Cantrell, south Rosemont. Been doing a lot of work in the vaccine space, especially in East Kern County. I also, as the director, cover Bakersfield, which goes as far out as Maricopa, Fraser Park, all the way up to McFarland.
So you'll be seeing him at your meetings more often.
Okay, great.
Just a quick update on Tehachapi when you're talking about housing and whatnot. The 1,000 resident project of Sage Ranch is finally going to the Planning Commission next week. So fingers crossed, if they pass that, it moves on to the next step. We do have a new a new extended stay hotel being built next to the hospital, and spoke with the lady yesterday, and they're hoping they might be complete by December. Other than that, Tehachapi we had a great 4th of July. Everybody was out and about. We had a great show, and that's it. Greg, hopefully we'll be here next week.
Great.
Next time. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have our videographer.
Yes.
I'll try my best to.
Just keep it running.
Do you
It's
want
running.
me to
Don't turn it off.
can I do the cat filter with you?
Yeah. Is it red in the?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. John Joyce giving the Rosemond report. The big news is the high-speed rail. The environmental impact report came out a week from last Friday, and it showed the path online of where the board is going to vote next month. And the interesting thing for us this time is this map, which shows the parcels that are going to be purchased in the pathway for the high-speed rail. Now, what we don't know is what's the fair market value for these parcels. And how do we tie in assessed value in Kern County with what the state is going to call fair market value? So we're puzzling over that, but as Bill can attest to, the pathway comes close to people's homes and over people's homes. So some people are going to have to be moved. Now, the funding for this section is not available yet. They're doing funding for sections, starting building them, then doing the environmental impact on another section. And this is Bakersfield to Palmdale. They haven't done Palmdale to Burbank or Palmdale to downtown LA yet, but they're working on it. This is online. The Roseman News, starting next week, is going to print the path of the rail and the parcels that are scheduled to be purchased. And the good thing about this, it has the number. It has the assessor's number for the parcel. So you can look up what the assessed value is and figure out what the fair market value is. If anybody has any inside track on that, I'd like to hear it. Our wastewater treatment plant is going to open next month. This is a great thing for Roseman because the adjudication of the Antelope Valley took away more than half of Roseman's ability to pump water. So the recycled plant now allows us to take effluent, purify it, inject it back in the aquifer. That gives us credit to pump out more water from our wells. So that's coming online next month. That'll be a great boon for Roseman because we were getting to the point where water was becoming an issue for issuing will serve letters, encouraging people to come. And we're looking forward to opening 4 new businesses in Roseman next month. Starbucks, 7-Eleven, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and a new market. So Roseman is going to hire people and have 4 new businesses next month. And that's all Roseman has.
Thank you. My arms are aching. How do you do this for 2 hours? Oh, I need some like Alka-Seltzer.
That's okay.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And when can I get my ticket to ride the high-speed rail to?
Well, I'll take your money right now.
I mean, I'm turning 55 this week, so
a little discount. A little discount.
Okay. Okay. Next, Ridgecrest. We have Megan, one of the new ambassadors for Ridgecrest, Megan McKenzie.
This is the speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Ridgecrest, everything's moving along pretty well in terms of earthquake recovery, development. Everything with China Lake is on track. They did just award a new contract to Webcor. So they're going to have an upcoming outreach and training event for potential subcontractors on July 19th in Ridgecrest and July 20th in Bakersfield. That event's going to be for small businesses to meet and greet, and there's going to be a certification and pre-qualification information session that day. In terms of other earthquake recovery stuff, we are also having issue with the housing, like a lot of other people. So we do have affordable housing tracks on track for next year, with a slight delay due to the cost of materials right now. Our projected number of laborers that came into the temporary housing camp is actually lower than expected, and that's just due to the fact that some contractors have been awarded multiple projects, so there's labor sharing going on between that, which is why the numbers are lower than originally expected. In terms of our fiber optics, the race, we are expecting hopefully that to be completed in 2023 or 2024. There's a new engineer that's working with the consultant to plan and manage the build out. and they expect roughly an 18-month period for that build out to completion. Let's see, that's all I have on that. Our current developments are on track with Chipotle, Starbucks, the Oasis complex that's going in near that Super Walmart area. There are 6 development lots still available, so the city is going to be working with consultants on outreach for retail opportunities. We'll be attending the ISCS conference in December for networking opportunities and trying to fill those lots. And in terms of RACVB, the Ridgecrest Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, they're moving forward with their California Welcome Center. Construction is on track, so we're hoping that the grand opening will be the first weekend of November in time for the Petroglyph Festival, which we are having this year. Last year, obviously, it didn't happen, but we do usually do that annually. So that'll be November 6th and 7th, a Saturday and Sunday. And the initial vendor interest was really high, so Carrie is waiting to see how much interest we have with that, and that should be a really good festival. The only problem is the Petroglyph tours are closed on base because of all the earthquake damage. So they're looking into alternative opportunities for people to be able to go out and see some of the petroglyphs at the Petroglyph Festival. So that's pretty much all I have right now for Ridgecrest. So if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Okay, Justin.
I wasn't browsing Reddit or anything. I was actually taking notes on my phone. For those of you who are in the room, you can see the background of Richard's. If the resolution was a little bit higher, you might almost see our new location in the background there. We are Kernville Cowork is a shared office space. And so you see a lot of, there's kind of this big explosion in co-working spaces throughout the country. A lot of them are really based around just trying to convert this commercial real estate into something a little more profitable. But for us, it's really mission focused. So what we're trying to do is, in addition to trying to create a community of people that work the same way, we're also focusing on creating the opportunity for our local students to be inspired and to give them pathways into high demand careers, but also to help support and encourage entrepreneurship within the Kern River Valley. What we're kind of seeing in this time coming out of COVID is we're seeing an explosion of people finding out that they don't have to live where they work. They can work where they want to live. And for a lot of people, they want to work where they play. So we're taking people that would normally come up to the Kern River Valley for 2 or 3 days, maybe to play in the river, maybe to do whitewater rafting. We have world-class whitewater rafting. We have world-class mountain biking and world-class fly fishing, in addition to hiking and the lake and all sorts of other activities. We take these people who would normally come up for 2 to 3 days, but if they have a place to work out of, maybe they stay 10 days or 20 days. And this is something we've been doing for a few years, but all of a sudden, somehow, I don't know how it happened, but we figured out that they could take their job with them. So we're seeing a lot of people starting to come up and rather than just stay the weekend, maybe they could take a few more calls from Kernville on Monday and Tuesday. Maybe they can extend their stay and spend more money in the valley. And then eventually they start saying, well, why the heck am I driving back to my sardine can? Why not live here, work here, play here, spend my money here, but still get my paycheck from LA, San Francisco, Silicon Valley? And what happens is as you start to build up a base of more of these high demand workers, that creates a more stable platform on top of which you can actually build startups and stuff. You have a greater hiring pool for that. In contrast to a lot of the other communities, Kern River Valley is not incorporated, so we don't have any super local government. But some of the challenges that we are kind of facing in this new, in this current phase is internet infrastructure. We don't have fiber coming into the Kern River Valley, and that's something when you're talking about these high demand workers, that's a big demand, is they want to be able to have that high speed internet. Like everybody else is saying, housing is always an issue. We did lose about 300 homes in the Erskine fire back in 2016. The dam renovation project has been incredible, but that brings in a lot of workers from out of town that are also taking up housing inventory. So that is something that that is a concern there. Let me check my notes. We just moved our co-working facility, so now we're on the now we're right in the heart of Kernville. We're seeing. And what we're seeing is a lot more people seeing Kernville as a place where they can work and live, rather than just come and consume and then leave. I don't know if any of you had a hard time trying to find things to do or places to go in the last 18 months. What a lot of people found is since they couldn't hop on a plane and go anywhere, since they couldn't go to any big cities, people all of a sudden found a fondness of the outdoors, and we've seen probably at least 100% growth in tourists coming up to the Kern River Valley. And so there's been a lot to kind of grapple with there. The county and the Forest Service have had a lot to deal with in terms of just dealing with the amount of trash and waste that our visitors generate, and you know, kind of you know, the infrastructure. And the last thing is that as we're coming into this you know, new season of being together again, we're restarting some of our training programs. So we're going to be starting a program soon for how to get a business started, how to actually you know, help these entrepreneurs kind of navigate that whole path, as well as kind of our coding for kids. You know, a lot of things to really kind of inspire and help our younger generation out. Any questions?
So you had an event called Vaximus. Can you, VAXMAS? Can you tell us what is that? Something like Seinfeld, Festivus?
It was Vaximus for the rest of us, I think.
Okay, what is Vaximus?
Well, you know, we've all missed out on a lot of gatherings. We've been wanting to gather together with each other for for well over a year, and it seemed like we had to kind of make up for lost time. And so basically we just celebrated a whole year's worth of things. So we within the co-working space, we had all the decorations. We decorated for Mardi Gras, New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, birthday. And we sang everybody happy birthday, everybody got birthday cake. We counted down the new year. We did an Easter egg hunt. We did all the things. So that was a pretty fun community event for us.
Did you coin that term or trademark it?
I didn't trademark it. I think somebody else, I saw somebody come up with the idea, somebody else in the co-working industry, but I don't think they did one. So as far as I'm aware, we're the only one to hold a Vaximus.
Oh, well.
The kind of the main boulevard in Kernville, we will be the very first co-working space in Eastern Kern County. I know there's some other cities and other areas that are interested in doing something similar. I know, I believe Tehachapi's still working on one. I heard California City's interested. Feel free to give me a call. Come take a tour of the space, and I can help you kind of figure that out, because it's a huge resource for the community. It's something that, especially in this age of distributed working and working where you want to live, it can be a huge benefit for your community if potential remote workers see that there's infrastructure for them to actually be able to get their jobs done. So.
Well, at last location, you were about 100 yards from the brewery. How far are you from the brewery this time?
You know, I think we about doubled it,
Okay.
so we could it's still within stumbling distance.
Okay.
But we also
You're right near the saloon, right?
we are between the brewery and the saloon, and we just got our new kegerator, so we'll have KRBC on tap. There you
go. Don't y'all have something called Kern Days or Kern
Whiskey?
Whiskey Flat Days?
We have Whiskey Flat Days.
When's that?
That's in February.
February.
Yeah, on President's Day. We did not. We weren't able to have it last year. As far as I'm aware, the plan is to have it this year. The new president of the Kernville Chamber of Commerce is really big into events. I think I heard today that they've got like 8 or 9 rodeos planned this year. So they're really kind of making up for lost time.
Yep.
Is whiskey involved with Whiskey Flat?
There's definitely a lot of whiskey.
Okay.
Whiskey Flat is the historical name for the town of Kern.
Oh, okay.
So, but
There's no margarita flats.
Okay, yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, Justin's been involved with our kite, kicking off that. I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He's just does it all, and just, you know, terms of an ambassador for Kern River Valley. And we use that image for our one-page ad. So thank you again. And thanks for breaking our camera. I'm kidding. I did that. I did that. So Cal City, who do we have? We have a council member.
Actually, there's two of us. There's one pointing in the back,
Okay,
but she's going to dump
okay,
it in my lap.
okay.
Yes, I am. I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'm going to apologize because I'm going to speak and run. I have a 4 o'clock budget meeting because I'm a council member. And I know the rest of the world approved budgets for June 30th, but Cal City's a little bit unique, so we're on a continuing resolution. And we're still fighting over several decades worth of discrepancies, but we have a council that this time doesn't want to kick anything down the road. So, going to be interesting afternoon. Alexia, how many houses? I heard 61, but do you know how many were up above that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. A lot of houses are being
We
built.
are building houses. We have cannabis businesses that are also developers. I'm sitting in this room thinking, oh, I'm so excited here. We have so much potential. Cal City has discovered that we have fiber optics already in the ground. They're sitting there. We're not at the last mile, but we have the whole skeletal system. We have managed to get 2 people within spectrum that we can have a big conversation. We're talking to the healthcare vertical, the government and education vertical, and the business enterprise vertical. So hopefully we can become a city that's connected in phases and over time. The houses, you've got people looking, we're building some really nice houses. And this unique place of having legal cannabis, trying to bring it out of an illegal industry, which is why we're fighting so much over our budget, because we know that we're in a growth spurt. We know that the budget guides every decision we make, and we're trying to do it right, knowing that we will learn in the process. But what I want to say thank you to everybody in this room. This is only my 3rd East Kern EDC meeting. The first one, I was just on overwhelm. I thought I knew things, but I didn't even understand the words. The second one, I did much better because I had a little bit of language. Today I came, it's in person, I was welcomed, I'm now part of you, I even get to sit in the fancy chair at the table, and I am so excited. California City is 203 square miles. 10% of our land is developed. 90% is a blank canvas. You're talking about the Aerospace Valley. I see the old Gavia logo with the triangle that goes from Lancaster, Palmdale to Ridgecrest. Every time I see that logo, I think of the Platinum Triangle in Beverly Hills. We can do literally anything we want to out here. And because we are people that it's small and we're talking to each other, our only limit is our imagination. So we can look at all the things we're doing. I'm going to learn about shared co-space, taking off my council member hat and putting on my East Kern Healthcare Director. In East Kern Healthcare, we're sitting on a 12,000 square foot building that's been vacant for 5 years or more. And we can do all kinds of things. So now it's a question of talking to the community and finding out what we can do. And Josh knows what it's like working with Cal City as we're discovering what we can do. We have so much heart and so many incredible people. We haven't learned to play very well in the sandbox, but after the pandemic, we've learned that we don't really want to be separated. So we're trying to come back. We're trying to do virtual and in person and find out how to do that. And what I'm seeing in this room today is we're all helping each other. And I'm really excited about that. So, Alexia?
Can I just add 2 really quick points?
Please.
So I'm just working from memory. In February, I was told, and this was from planning, that at that point, for the past year or so, 150 permits had been issued for houses in California City. In my neighborhood alone, there are 17 houses going up, nice ones.
All the infill is in
Yes,
Alexia's.
it's all infill. And then, just as a by the way, and this is me wearing my chamber hat, Not only, I am not aware of a single business closing during COVID, but instead, since the beginning of COVID, we had 6 ribbon cuttings. And there's a Starbucks that's going to be opening in a couple of months, although I have to say there are 2 very local, good places that serve local coffee too.
Outstanding local
Yes,
coffee.
outstanding.
And the building for Starbucks is starting to look like a Starbucks. It's got the shape and the windows, and it's really happening.
Just keep it to this.
So that's it for Cal. But see, this is what's happening in Cal City. We've been working as individuals. We've been talking to people. We've been gathering knowledge. Now we're starting to share it. And this is really exciting. And this is why I'm excited to be part of Eastern Kern County.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Excuse
Safe
me,
travels.
everybody.
Great, and next, do we have anyone from Boron? Let's see, Mary Beth, or, okay. Now, member comments, anybody, actually, let's go to the virtual folks. Anybody like to, any updates, comments? Virtual tomatoes? John, I see John's front and center. Okay. Going once? Oh, John, did you want to say something?
I'll go ahead and let you know. We have several projects for renewable fuel coming into our area. Valley Green Fuels in the West Kern area. We've got one coming to McFarland. These are all various stages. And battery storage almost went through the Bakersfield Planning Directors meeting the other day, but they had a glitch at the second entrance. And so at the truck battery storage or battery charging station, first of its kind in the nation. So we've got some interesting projects coming to Kern County that are going to provide an opportunity not only for the construction but for employment after they're built.
No, you're right. We've had our pipeline. We have about 25 active projects, and during COVID,
that's correct.
We've seen a switch. We primarily before COVID, it was a lot of logistics. Now it's a lot of manufacturing and some East Kern manufacturing projects, and the renewable manufacturing has really taken off. So the key is obviously you want cap investment, but jobs, right? The multipliers are critical. So some of these renewables are up to 100 permanent jobs, 150 bio, renewable diesel, and so forth. So thanks, John.
Good luck.
And anybody else? Yes, Jason, come on up.
So Jason here for the Kern County Builders Exchange. So in the vein of development, especially for East Kern, just wanted to give you an announcement that we have just under $500,000 worth of grant funding that we were able to procure through the exchange for workforce development training through the EPA, Department of Labor, and then we were just awarded some additional funding from California Employer Training Panel. We want to be able to help prioritize allocations to support East Kern. One of the things that we're doing also to demonstrate our support to East Kern is we're helping to we have a satellite facility now at the Stater Brothers location there at 860 North China Lake Boulevard, where it's about a 2,200 square foot facility to be able to deliver training there just outside the gate. So if anyone's interested, feel free to just grab me afterwards and can provide some info for that. That's also the location that we're hosting the WebCore outreach event for one of the prime contractors. So hopefully more events like that to come as well. So, all right, thank you all.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Josh, how's waste management doing?
Good. Just remind everybody that it's barbecue season, but wait for your coals to cool before putting them into your containers. Or if you're on propane, that your propane tank goes back to a HHW event at a Kern County hazardous waste collection event or facility, not in your waste container.
Wait, PSA for you. Doug, do you have any? You came all the way from Simi Valley, so we'll.
Simi? No.
Okay, Thousand Oaks.
I want to talk about the National Institute of Stamp Technology.
Come on up and near the.
Thank you. My name is Doug Waterman. I'm with California Manufacturing Technology Consulting. mouthful, CMTC for short. And my job is basically to run around and find manufacturers that need help. I work with small companies, medium-sized companies, large companies, doesn't matter. But we have a program, we call it an accelerator program, and we actually provide consulting for 24 hours for the first round and another 12 hours for the second round. I say consulting, but really what we do is we find somebody who actually to mentor and coach a small company, a small business, in any variety of subject that they want. They might want some help on sales and marketing, they might want some help on quality, and they develop a quality system. They may have some process issues, or maybe they're trying to create a process. I'd love to talk to you about that, Justin, because I think it's going to turn out with a lot of some of the things that you're doing in the big space.
Oh, yeah.
And the good news is that it doesn't cost anything. We actually have money from this. We have money we have to spend, and as usual, we're coming to our fiscal year end, so they want us to spend the money. So the more companies I can find, the more people we can help. Very happy to do that. And yes, I do live in CB Valley, so I guess I'm kind of an outlier, but you know, my second home is Kern County, because I spend more time in Kern County than actually do in CB now. So thank you very much.
Well, Alan, you want to chat about the amazing stuff happening at the gold mine?
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on at Soledad Mountain, Richard. We're finally bringing our intermediate leachate system online, which in essence is like a turbocharger for extraction of the gold and silver from our solution. So it brings forward ounces, which are much needed to fund a very robust development effort we've got going on presently. If you've driven on Silver Queen Road past our facility, we've had a construction project going on since last November. And it's a heap leach pad extension that's the equivalent of 72 acres and will allow us an additional 26 million tons of stacking capacity. So that'll carry us forward for another 5 years. We also have had a strategic partner, a contractor in assisting with overburden stripping. So our next move in terms of the mine plan is to shift to the southern part of the mountain. And so we've stripped off another 13 million tons of overburden to get to the higher grade ore. Then we've had an extensive exploration program going on with a lot of test drilling and a lot of analysis, and that's looking very, very favorable. So I guess we look forward to the future. We're currently permitted for precious metals mining for another 10 years, and then on the aggregate side, which is my sandbox, we're permitted to 2061. So we're looking forward to additional reserves being proven out to extend the mine life. So just tremendous amount of activity going on. That's why I've missed the last couple of meetings.
Well, and if anybody has taken the tour, it's amazing. And Golden Queen, we have a podcast called Moving the Needle, talking about local economic pillars of Kern County, because I talk about stats. 80% of new jobs are from local companies. They might not get the headlines, 5 jobs here, 10, but I remember when you all came into our office about 12 years ago and said, yeah, we're going to reopen this gold mine.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, you are? And then how many state permits were required? I think it was 146.
It was a 30-year project.
Okay.
Literally 30 years.
And it's been a great success story. So if anybody has not taken the tour, I think it's definitely. And then where else have you worked around? You and Bob have worked countries around the world in mining?
Yeah, Bob did globally, and I've done a lot on the construction side, not the mining side. They adopted me as a miner, back in 2012 when I first started helping them with site remediation. So I'm kind of the redheaded stepchild, I guess, on site. Most of them are long seasoned careers, and mining is a unique business in the sense that you have to move where the material's at, right? And it's global, so it's a lot of people have traveled the globe throughout their career paths.
I think Bob said he was in Chile, where they had not had rain in 30 years, wherever he was. So we think we don't get a lot of rain there.
And Bob retired, by the way, Richard.
That's why his email, I wanted to ask you, I got a bounce back.
Yeah, he retired in December. Mark Fullenwider came on board.
Okay.
So he is our new CEO.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. And we still employ roughly 250
Yep.
people, outside contractors, all the support personnel. We end up with another 150 at least that are full-time support.
Great. Thank you.
We're blessed. It's the business is doing well for us.
Well, anybody else? Oh, I'd like
Just,
to. Yeah.
an ad. This group here ought to keep pressure and visibility on what's going on with, out of Assemblyman Lackey and Senator Wilk's office, of an aerospace center of excellence under the UC system here in the Antelope Valley. That'll support all of our enterprises. If you wonder what that is, look back at Silicon Valley 30 years ago. Somebody said these computer things are really going to take off. Let's build under the UC system a center of excellence right here. And they garnered all that intellectual talent to start working computers. All you have to do is drive up to Silicon Valley and get results. We want the same thing here. And the reason is, if you look at the history of aviation, Kitty Hawk's interesting but insignificant. Southern California is where aviation exploded. That's where it grew. Thanks.
Just so I know, basically, you all are members of the EDC members. So we have our annual dinner by the river in Bakersfield at JH Ranch. Last time it was 112 degrees in the shade in June. We're moving it to September, so September 23rd. We'll be sending out invites, but there's 300 of our closest friends will be there. So we hope you'll be there. We appreciate your support, and it's been a while. We didn't get to convene last year, but we promise it will not be 112 degrees on that day. Great. Well, thank you. I'm glad we're all meeting in person. Thanks for everybody that called in. The next meeting in 2 months will be remember, it's the second Thursday of the month, and it will be in Tehachapi. So location to be determined. So thanks again. And this will be on your YouTube channel?
Oh, absolutely. Tomorrow.
Yeah, camera's a little close to me. It might break the lens. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.